Hi, and welcome to the One True Church. I'm Hugh Whitmore. In today's teaching, we're going to talk about the ego and how you can master your ego to use it to your advantage, both on earth and in the spiritual world when you're glorifying God. And this will be based, of course, on what Jesus taught us. To get started, I'll remind you that God's original spiritual kingdom was stolen in Genesis 2:4 through 3:24 by Satan's invention of sin, which has reduced the earth to this evil simulation we live in now. I do this regularly because I hope to motivate you to take the necessary religious steps to bring back God's spiritual kingdom. The kingdom will return when we in God's church glorify Him adequately. There are many scriptures on the power of glorifying the Father, but a couple are Psalm 29:1, "Give unto the Lord, O ye mighty, give unto the Lord glory and strength," and Revelation 4:11, "You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created." The fact that the church is the power behind salvation is the main theme of the entire Bible. One of the things you can do to help fulfill God's plan of eternal salvation is to understand what your ego is and get control of it so we can help Jesus return for us. In this satanic simulation on the earth, the ego has been defined as if it's a perfectly normal thing in human beings, but the ego didn't even exist in God's original kingdom. It was completely spiritual. And the ego will not exist when the renewed kingdom is returned to us, as is shown in the book of Revelation. There will only be spiritual oneness with one another, with God, with Jesus, and with the angels, based on the principles of sacrificial love that Jesus taught us. That's why Jesus said that the first will be last and the last will be first in God's kingdom, because we're all going to be the same there. The sacrificial love of Jesus is the opposite of the ego, and the ego gives glory to the devil, especially when the ego is out of control. The true ego in its most basic form is our sense of self, which actually is a major part of the conscience God gave us and is spiritual in nature, even in its most basic form. The spiritual component in humans is why we have premonitions or can sense that someone is looking at us, even if we're not looking at them. The spiritual conscience will greatly expand in all of God's elect and righteous as the end times process continues to gather momentum. The problem with the ego is that it's encouraged here on earth in its most satanic state, like with narcissism, huge displays of pride, bragging, bullying, lying, and controlling otherwise innocent and sincere people. This is why ego is worshipped so much by the satanic propaganda machine on the earth. The bigger the ego, the more money and ranking in society an individual receives. The first display of ego that comes to my mind is always the degrading behavior in sports. In my lifetime, sports has gone from humble athletes shaking hands with their opponent and only celebrating when there was a championship, to now where they constantly degrade opponents during the game and celebrate every play. It's hideous and degrading to watch, and not only is this evil behavior worshipped by the fans, it's copied in their everyday lives. Politicians actually exude fake ego to mislead their followers. They degrade the opposing party to raise funds and create anger in their supposed opposition. But in fact, both sides are working together for Satan to increase evil on the earth, a condition that's been present through the centuries and will continue until the end of creation when Jesus returns with God's angel army. All media is ego-driven as they self-righteously degrade any group or individual that speaks or acts against the prevailing lies that control thought and action in the world. I'll use the example of business and the workplace last here, as this is the heart of my lesson today. Business owners and upper management are full of ego as they mouth platitudes about teamwork and the value of the employees. But when it comes time to save money or change direction in the organization because of the incompetence of upper management, anyone below upper management is cut without thought. So now let's turn to Jesus for wisdom in Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. This is Jesus' approval of using your ego when you have to interact with this evil world. As when you're in the workplace, running a business, dealing with companies who may repair your house or car, or negotiating any type of transaction. And the ego goes two ways. First, there's your own ego. While engaged in this sinful world, you should have a strong sense of yourself and not let others push you around. You should be tactful, but quick to say no when you sense you're being put into a disadvantage. Don't let your ego push you into trying to get too much out of a situation. Just get a good deal that suits you and keep your side of the bargain until the deal has run its course. The strongest thing you can do if you sense a bad deal is to say no and then think it over. If you work for someone else, stay abreast of the salary market, know your worth, and ask for a raise when it's due. If a raise is not adequately given, be calm and move toward finding some place that will pay you fairly. If you have your own business, outwork others, hire honest people, and pay them well so you can do well yourself. The other part of ego usage is in massaging the egos of those who can do you some good, like superiors at your place of employment, the people in your business, if you run one, and reliable people for repairs and professional help. Everyone's favorite topic is themselves, so constantly ask about the person, how they're doing, and what's new with them or their business. Serve their egos and they will view you favorably. Then, when you're away from work, away from your business, and away from negotiating repairs and other services, leave your ego behind and live with your brethren in the church and your loved ones by using the method of sacrificial love that Jesus taught us. Gather together your loved ones to do the same. This behavior will greatly glorify our loving Father. To sum up, the ego is not connected to God. Only the humble emotions taught by Jesus through our conscience that God gave us will connect us to God. Serve God fully and daily. Turn from the false apostle and false prophet, Saul of Tarsus. Return joyfully to the salvation Jesus brought us in the Gospels. Jesus is our protector and our teacher. Fast and pray. Reduce your sin. Live and preach the kingdom teachings. And Jesus will be back for us soon.